it cost this guy his career.
Again.
For this guy, he never remained the same again. False accusations, it can ruin a footballer's life. And these are the 7 footballers who've lost everything, all down to untrue claims. And wait till you see what it did to the GOAT that ended his career. But first, I've got to start with what a false accusation did to Lapioche. By 2017, he was the most expensive footballer in the world. Fast forward to 2024, and Paul Pogba's career is in the balance. So the big question is, what exactly happened to him? Well, it's a lot, and it's in large part all down to a false accusation. Ever since he made the move back to Juventus in the summer of 2022,
I'm back.
Pogba wasn't the same person. I mean, if you decide to look up his injury list, it almost feels unreal. Game after game after game, Pogba couldn't keep up. The injuries were becoming a lot, and in the midst of all of that, he was dealing with something else as well. A family war. His brother had come out to accuse him of using dark arts on Kylian Mbappe years back, and even threatened to expose more. But just when Pogba thought things couldn't get any lower, they did. And this one was going to be the final blow.
Paul Pogba has been banned from playing football for 4 years, according to Sky in Italy.
The CAS had been on Pogba's case after he was alleged to have used a banned substance. And when the case was done, Pogba was slammed with a 4-year ban. Now see guys, it's a big issue we're dealing with here, because if Pogba did accept the ban and the statement from CAS, then it meant that he would also be admitting indirectly that every time he stepped on the pitch and did all those magical tricks and skills, it would have been done due to the boost in his system from those supplements. Pogba came out and he was clear with his statement.
I would say it. Yes, I did, because I felt like I needed it, but that's not the case, and this is not me. I am not a cheater. I'm someone that loves my sport. I love the game, and I would never, ever, I don't like to cheat. I like to win fairly.
I mean, he's come out to say he isn't a cheat and wouldn't do something like that on purpose. And in turn, his ban was reduced to 2 years, meaning we should be seeing him back in March 2025. But the thing is, what that ban did was take away years from a player who desperately needed them. He won the World Cup with France in 2018. There's no guarantee he might ever make the team again. But at least Pogba didn't have to go to jail, like this next guy did, all for a case that's been cleared up. In 2021, everything seemed fine with Benjamin Mendy. He was part of that France team that won the 2018 World Cup. He was at Manchester City and Pep Guardiola's first-choice left-back, and he was a guaranteed starter in the team. No question about his talent, but it all changed for him at the start of the year, when Mendy got a big accusation slammed against him.
Mendy appeared at Chester Crown Court today for a preliminary hearing wearing a black face mask. He's charged with 7 counts of rape, 1 attempted rape and 1 sexual assault against 6 women.
Just listening to this being read out, I don't think it needs any explanation on how big this case was. A footballer in the peak age of his career, and now football wasn't even the case for him. Mendy was fighting to save his life or risk staying in prison. As the case continued to develop, it got worse.
Manchester City footballer Benjamin Mendy will now face 9 charges when his trial begins on July 25th this year, after an extra count of attempted rape was added by the CPS.
The counts increased. More women had allegedly come out to accuse Mendy of these crimes. And now what the man was facing was a prison sentence that would have kept him locked in for life. In all of this though, Mendy continued to maintain his innocence. From the period he was accused to the court sessions, Manchester City suspended him. He wasn't even thinking about a national team call-up, because there was no way the national team was going to pick him. But in the end, months back, the truth was out. All charges dropped. Mendy was a free man. His first words?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Praise be to God. But when you look at the effects it had on his career, it's a lot. Mendy lost his football. From being Manchester City's first-choice left-back, he was now without a club. And even though Lorient took a chance on him, it's safe to say it hasn't been the same ever since. Truth is, Benjamin Mendy might never return to the level he was before all these accusations. And that's just hard. as hard as Emmanuel Eboué's life now, after he lost everything, all down to false accusation. Emmanuel Eboué used to live a high life. He got into the spotlight after signing for Arsenal, and in his peak years in the Premier League, he was one of the best fullbacks in the country. Playing for a team like Arsenal, you'd expect him to have been on a decent pay, and he was. So much so that even when he left the Gunners, Eboué was still raking in proper cash. He earned $8 million a year at Galatasaray. But that's where the real trouble began, because pretty soon, the money had Eboué in deep trouble. In 2017, Eboué got a one-year ban from the game after reportedly failing to pay an agent. Apparently, he'd signed for Sunderland as a free agent in March, but because of a dispute with his agent, Sébastien Boissou, Eboué was ordered by a court to the agent what he owed him, and in turn, slammed with a ban. The damage was on Eboué's part, as a guy who wanted to rip off the people representing him. And to make matters worse,
a former Premier League and Arsenal star Emmanuel Eboué has lifted the lead on the bitter divorce battle with wife Aurélie that stripped him of all his assets. The ex-Arsenal ace earned millions during his 7 years in the Premier League.
The infamous divorce from his wife almost ruined him. The whole situation took a toll on Eboué, and sadly, he never quite recovered after that. In the divorce case, Eboué was ordered by a court to give up assets such as his mansion in England to his wife. And while he claims he has rebuilt his life after the entire incident, the truth is, the damage both cases did to his career, well, they were huge. And speaking of huge, with this next guy, a massive reputation came with a massive downfall after a very big misconception. Romelu Lukaku needs no introduction. He might easily go down as the most trolled attacker of all time, depending on how you look at it. A bagsman for two different reasons. The thing is, jokes aside, Lukaku was a very efficient striker, especially in his playing career in England, and it was at Everton that he had people take notice of him. From there, a big money move to Manchester United followed, but at United, Lukaku soon came under the spotlight for a big reason.
Looking at fitness, I'm not sure if fitness is the right word of some of the players, but going back again to Lukaku, he does look quite heavy set, and he's addressed the fact that maybe he put on a bit too much muscle.
His weight was questioned, and it was getting so bad that an ex-Manchester United player ripped into him.
A clock ticking. They should know their bodies inside out. You get into that zone as a football player, you know your fighting weight, you know what you're going to eat every day, you know when you can sort of relax, you know when you can sort of not eat when you do eat, you know when to sort of day before a game, the portion sizes, they're absolutely scientific. Even when I was playing, you get into that point, don't you, as a football player, the routine. I'm not sure how he actually hasn't, through this problem that he's obviously identified himself of bulking up.
The player Gary Neville was talking about here was Lukaku, and he tore into the Belgian forward, claiming he was overweight and he was going to cost the team.
What did you make of him today? Was it shocking?
Lukaku is wank, absolute wank, mate. The guy stood there for 90 minutes.
Leave Lukaku!
Did not even jump for a ball, did not move, stood there. We made 2 subs, didn't bring him off once. Why? Why did you put Ibrahimovic on for her?
As a result of this, Lukaku began receiving lots of hate from the fans who were supposed to be cheering him week in and week out. It continued to get worse, so much so that in the end, Lukaku was ready to call it quits on his time at the club, only just a season and a half after he joined United. He made the switch to Inter Milan, and it was at his new team where Lukaku told the world the truth about his weight problems, which showed everyone had it all wrong to start with. Before I get to that, quick heads up, just in case you haven't subscribed to Football Historia yet, hit that button down below. That's it. At Inter Milan, the club helped him.
And I told him, I said, normally the type of player I am, I'm a very explosive type of player who's all action all the time. So I said, because of that, my game has changed. I don't want to change my game. I want to be that player. So basically with the blood analyze, with the analyze of my discharge and everything, we found the right situation. And I think in less than 2 weeks, I lost 3-4 kilograms.
As he said in the interview, they came up with a plan where they analysed his discharge, helped him feel less bloated, and in 2 weeks he was down 4 kilos and started playing like this. The point? Well, those who called Lukaku fat at United or overweight, the likes of Gary Neville, well, it shows that the nutritional team at United did nothing to solve Lukaku's problem, leading to him being falsely accused of being fat. I mean, the man himself pointed out that he'd had that problem for a while now, and it wasn't until he got to Inter that it changed for him, And that's because at the Italian club, they had nutritionists and doctors who understood the problem and came up with a plan for him. The more you think about it, the more you feel bad for the guy. Lukaku's time at United ultimately came to an end. He's never getting back what he lost in Manchester. And he was getting slammed at the club because people believed he wasn't fit and overweight. And meanwhile, he had a digestion issue all the time. I mean, it wasn't as if you'd ever catch a photo of Lukaku flipping burgers into his belly or something. It was all down to his metabolism, and no one seemed to understand. The same way no one seemed to understand the issue with Kalvin Phillips. And his was so bad that he was getting called out by the one person who should have defended him. Kalvin Phillips used to be one of the brightest talents in the English game. He was part of the team that finished as runners-up at the 2020 Euros and played for England at the 2022 World Cup, and in turn earned a proper move to the reigning league champions, Manchester City. But you see guys, in his new team, Kalvin Phillips struggled to get minutes, and this wasn't entirely his fault though, because in that holding midfield position, it would have been a big ask for him to try and displace Rodri. Most people would struggle at it. But still, there were a couple of games you'd have expected Kalvin Phillips to feature in for City, but he wasn't playing in them, and ultimately, it led to questions getting asked. And when Guardiola did respond about Kalvin Phillips, the stuff he said was brutal.
Just going back to Kalvin Phillips, can you just clarify, please? If he's not injured...
No, he's not injured. He arrived with overweight.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So why is he overweight?
I don't know.
But it's the player's responsibility is what you're saying?
No, he didn't arrive in the condition to training sessions and to play.
Because the reason I ask, obviously he's been away at the World Cup, he's been around physios, nutritionists...
No. No. Yeah, absolutely. That's why he cannot play. When he will be ready, he will play, but we need him. We need him a lot.
Is that a disappointment to you, surprise?
It's private conversation with Kalvin.
On national TV, he called Kalvin Phillips overweight. Now, to say this, considering the player had gained just 1.5 kilograms over what Pep deemed to be his required fitness level, that was hard. And what made it even harder was that you could have attributed Phillips' weight gain to his lack of playtime under Pep.
Is there any part of that you regret about going public about his weight?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Once in years is not bad, but I'm so sorry. I apologize to him. I do apologize, so I'm sorry.
Now, Pep did come out to apologise to Phillips, saying he should have handled the issue in-house rather than just stating it out there. But at that point, what Pep didn't know was that this accusation was going to alter Phillips' career. A failed loan spell at West Ham, and one that isn't working at Ipswich Town so far. Kalvin Phillips' career is in danger of becoming a waste at just 29. And you can't help but feel Pep's comments would have played a part in that. When managers decide to speak about players like this, it can have rippling effects on their career. Like the time Jose Mourinho said something that ended up throwing one of his players under the bus. From 2015 to 2017, Dele Alli was the golden boy of the game. I mean, yeah, sure, he never won the main award, but with Dele Alli, what you had was one of the most promising talents in the game who was set up for a proper future. By the time 2019 had rolled around, however, Ali was experiencing a tough time in his career. The performances had stalled a bit, and he was getting injured way too many times than he would have liked. But where it all changed for him was when the special one came to White Hart Lane. Spurs appointed Mourinho as manager, and straight away, one of his first targets was Dele Alli. Don't get me wrong, Mourinho knew Ali was talented and wanted to get the best out of him. But the thing is, he also didn't know the full story. And to be fair, neither did anyone. So when he called him out and it got captured, it all just made for a really bad story.
I told already Dele very directly, he doesn't train well. He's not a good trainer. I'm not saying a disaster, but I'm not saying a Harry Kane. You know, Harry Kane trains well, but he's not a good trainer. We need to find the right motivation for the guy.
Mourinho described Dele Alli as lazy, and even though Ali laughed it off at the time, what he didn't know was that these accusations would eat a long way into his career. Ali failed to discover his form, then the move to Everton followed and that didn't work out. He was in Turkey with Besiktas, but at his new club, Ali soon fell out of favour. Imagine that, the home fans booing him after he gets subbed off.
Tepki de var Dele Alli'ye.
See guys, now every time Ali has a bad game, people can't help but refer to what Mourinho said about him. Maybe Ali was lazy and just didn't care enough. At least that was until he decided to come out and tell the world what he'd been dealing with.
What was the point where you started to feel that it wasn't right?
Like one morning I woke up, I had to go train, and this is when he'd stopped playing me. I remember just looking in the mirror. I mean, it sounds dramatic, but I was literally staring in the mirror. And I was asking if I could retire now. At 24, you know, doing the thing I love. For me, that was heartbreaking.
Issues, mental health issues, the trauma he suffered as a kid. He used football as a mask to cover it up, but ultimately, it was eating into him. And now, Ali couldn't hide it anymore. At least the world knew now. He wasn't lazy, he was just depressed. Ali's never recovered though. He hasn't played the game in over a year, and it doesn't seem like he would anytime soon. It hurts bad when someone says stuff about you that isn't true, or worse when people who are supposed to have your back don't. Just like it happened to the GOAT, and ended a very important chapter of his life. CR7, Manchester United, destiny.
Madeira, Manchester, Madrid, Turin, and Manchester again.
When he made that sensational return in the summer of 2021, it felt like the divine. Like Ronaldo had come back to save the club, and the special performances started showing. However, this dream return soon came with problems, and it ultimately cost the then manager his job. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked, and to replace him was this new guy, Erik ten Hag. Now, Ten Hag was supposed to take charge of the team in pre-season of the next campaign, and he did, but not without creating some major conflict between himself and Ronaldo. The two of them? It was a disaster.
I'm not hiding that the empathy with the coach is not good. I'm honest.
You don't have a good relationship with him?
I'm not mean good relationship. The empathy is not good, let's say.
Do you think he respects you?
I think he don't respect the way I should deserve.
Ronaldo claimed Ten Hag didn't respect him, and to be fair, getting benched in the Manchester derby or asking him to come on as an 88th minute sub when they'd done the game already, and after Ronaldo released that interview with Piers Morgan, that was the end. The verdict? Well, it was believed that Ronaldo never liked Ten Hag from the start, and that's why he didn't show up for pre-season, which kind of kicked off the entire thing. But in that same interview, Ronaldo cleared the air.
Exactly.
And you must have been absolutely...
I spoke with the directive and the president of Manchester United, and then kind of that didn't believe that something going wrong, which is make me feel bad.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't believe you.
Family first. He was trying to prioritize the health of his kids after what was a trying period for him and his family. They'd lost one of their twins a few months back, and now his daughter was sick and he wanted to be there, and that's why he didn't come early for pre-season. According to what Ronaldo said, he informed the United board, but they didn't believe him, and that's what led people to accuse Ronaldo of hating Ten Hag in the first place. This one cost Ronaldo his European journey.
As you mentioned before, in Europe, my work, it's done. I won everything. I played the most important clubs in Europe, and for me now it's a new challenge, as you mentioned, in Asia.
As he said, he'll never play for another European team again, which means his European career ended with that painful situation at United. That's what it cost him. I'm pretty sure Ronaldo would have loved to have gone out on his own terms, just like Toni Kroos did. The only problem with this is Kroos leaving. It's imbalanced what used to be one of the best teams in Europe. Want to find out how Toni Kroos leaving is the reason for Real Madrid's decline? Just click the next video.